In today's episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast, we get you pumped and ready for one of the biggest college football matchups of the weekend in your number 24 ranked Kansas Jayhawks on the road down in Austin, Texas, taking on the number 3 Texas Longhorns. Big time matchup. JB and I are going to break this game down for you, give you some of our predictions, and talk a little bit about what the expectations will be, win or lose.
Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man.
JB, my man, how are you doing? I've been gone for several weeks. You've been holding it down, and I am pumped to be back on here. It feels weird not being on a podcast for 2.5-3 weeks, but you guys had a lot of fun while I was gone, and I'm just excited to be back here with you.
Yeah, excited to have you back, man. It's a lot to run the ship on your own. So, hats off to you and everything you do. Glad you're back. It's been good. I've been feeling good. This is a big game, obviously, right? It's our biggest test of the year. This is what the first 4 games have led up to, and this will be our biggest, toughest game of the season. This is our chance to show what we've got. So, I'm pumped. I'm ready for this game, and hopefully it's a good one for us, and hopefully we pull out the win.
Yeah. So before we jump into this matchup, let's just recap here. Pause real quick. KU football is 4-0 for the second time in a row. That is not happened in forever. I mean, it has happened. It's just been a super long time. But not only is KU 4-0 in back-to-back seasons, they are now also ranked again for a second straight season, coming in at number 24. Just barely slid in there. This time last year, though, KU was not ranked yet as of 4-0, so they get ranked a week earlier this year. But yeah, 4-0, ranked number 24 in the country, coming into this monster matchup against Texas. Everybody remembers what happened last time we were down in Texas, of course. The Jalen Daniels, as much excitement as people get and thrilled that Jared Casey caught that ball, I think everybody forgets Jalen running around for a while, scrambling before he even got that ball out. But Jared Casey catches the 2-point conversion there. KU wins. Everybody goes nuts. KU football's back, and that springboards us into this last season going 6-7, and then into this year going 4-0. So back down in Texas again, but this time we are ranked. We've got a lot more firepower. Honestly, a lot of that team that was down there 2 years ago is still here with a couple more additions. But yeah, we're going into this game as a relatively heavy underdog. 17-point spread, give or take, on where you see. I think as of this morning, it's down to 16.5 on most places. Texas is not the same team they were 2 years ago. They're not even the same team they were last year. Last year when they came into Lawrence to play us, they destroyed us. And it was an embarrassment. They ran for like 7,000 rushing yards between Bijan Robinson and that backfield. Thankfully, he is gone. Now they do still have another one of the running backs from this team last year, but this is a very high-powered Texas offense, very high-powered Texas defense. This is your typical Texas team that you're used to seeing, but KU is not with the KU team we've seen of years past, as we all know. They've had an impressive year to start. A lot of statistics that they're ranking very high, and offensively, they're still one of the top teams in the country. Again, offensively, they are the number 1 ranked team in the country on third down conversion at about 60-ish%, give or take. Special teams unit is number 1 ranked in the entire country, which is insane because last year we probably lost 2 games, maybe 3 because of special team issues, or we could have potentially had 2 more wins on our book if special teams were better. And they've been solid. Seth Keller's been amazing. Defense has been pretty stout. I know we haven't gone up against any giants offensively necessarily, but obviously Kobe Bryant's having an incredible year. He's going to be a finalist for several awards. Kenny Logan's been as sure tackler as we've seen in a long time. The defensive line group's been quite impressive. I know we talked about this a few weeks ago that we needed to see this defensive line be big this year. And between Jeremy Robinson and the impact that Austin Booker, our transfers, had, the defensive line's been solid. Slowing down the run game's been great. This defense has put us in positions to be successful, even when the offense doesn't look at its best. And I think we can say Jalen hasn't had his best game of the season yet. I think we're still not that we've had any bad offensive games, but there hasn't been that staple KU football offense from the last 2 years type game yet. Maybe that'll be today, maybe not. But we head into this matchup 4-0, ranked 24th in the country. Before we even talk about this game specifically, what are your emotions as a fan sitting here knowing that we're 4-0 and ranked with the opportunity? I mean, the season is before us today.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people said that they were a little afraid too. It's like, you're coming into this game. Yes, it's fantastic to be ranked. We're ranked for the second year in a row, and probably what has been a very long time, if ever, has that happened. I mean, my gosh.
I can't remember the year, but it was like 1900 something. So
Yeah, that was
before
like
we
when
were
we went
born.
4-0. Were there even rankings back then?
Oh, yeah.
Because there were. Okay. Well, this is the emotion going into this game is kind of, it's up and down, right? Because we're in a great position being 4-0. We just came off a big win against BYU, where we said in the preview we have to man up and roll over them, just like we did with Illinois, because there are so many parallels between the big time matchup of Illinois versus the big time matchup of BYU, and we did just that. We proved we were the better team. It took us a little longer. It was tight in the middle. It was tight through a lot of that game, and then second half we just kind of pulled away and never looked back. Right. We're hoping for a similar output, but even honestly, we're going to need a better output. This game is, I'm going to be a realist here. It's a scary one. This game, we have to play our best. We have to play the way we did defensively against Illinois. We have to play the way we did offensively, as basically 2 years ago in Austin. And yeah, we do need another Jalen Daniels game where he just goes nuts and gets 400 plus yards and 5+ touchdowns. We need Jalen Daniels to be locked in. I absolutely think he can be that. It's just a lot of things need to go right for us to pull out this win. That being said, it's possible for it to happen. I understand the pessimism, and it's tough emotionally as a fan. You're kind of going into this game like, yeah, it's great that we are in this position, but we're about to get a reality check, so I'm not that excited. That's the mentality of some people. Otherwise, you got to flip the script. You got to go into this game and say, we are in the best position that we've ever been to go in and win again in Austin. Let's tap into that and let's get it done.
I think I agree with that. And I was looking it up while you were chatting there. It's not since the early 1900s, 1913 to 1915 was the last time KU started out 4-0 in back-to-back seasons. But that impressive 07 to 09 run, they did find themselves ranked in back-to-back seasons. But
Okay,
over 100 years have gone by since we've gone 4-0 in back-to-back seasons. So that tells you, I guess, how bad of a program we've been in the last 100 years. But how grateful I think we should be where we're sitting now. Because I think you could even go back to that 07-08 team, that Orange Bowl team, as good as they were. I know we didn't have Texas on the schedule that year, which is partially why we went 12-1. But even that team, as good as it was, I think you still would have had a lot of fans back then going into Texas and trying to pull off an upset, even with this incredible team, that's still tough. Now, Texas isn't quite the true dominance that they were of the 2000s, just top end talent. But they're on the right path going back up. So before we break down this preview, one question I want to ask you, which we'll finish up the podcast with as well later, is before we get to this game, sitting here at 4-0 and ranked 24th in the country, knowing that there's still a good chunk of the season left, you're 2 games away from bowl eligibility. Have your expectations for where this team finishes changed at all? Are they still the same, or have those expectations increased?
Yeah, absolutely. I think going into the season, I was saying that I predict us at 6 or 7 wins tops. Now I'm looking at the schedule, and I was just looking at this schedule the other day, and I'm thinking this could easily be 8, 9, or 10 if we continue to stay locked in. Because, yeah, we're already at a 4-0 start. I thought we could easily be 2-2 by now. We could easily be 3-1. Definitely easily be 3-1 right now. And if we had taken an early loss, whether it was against Illinois or BYU, that would have been the reality check for me to say, okay, great. Now we're in Big 12 play. Looks like we're with the big dogs now. It's like I was fully expecting a reality check by now, and to just temper my expectations and be realistic again. But now I'm looking at this, and I've seen the team thrive in a lot of different ways. Offensively, we have so many tricks. We know that. And I just think we're never out of this game, especially when we are a second half type of team. It's great to have hot starts, but it's how you finish the game that matters. And I think that we've done a great job of doing that throughout our first 4 games. So now I'm looking at games like UCF as a possible win. I'm looking at games like K-State as a possible win, even though I've seen more and more people still don't think we're going to win that game. It'll be our last home game of the season. I think the guys are going to come to play. These
we'll
are
be fired up for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, and just like we're in the best position to beat Texas again in Austin, we are in the best position to beat K-State later on this year. So I kind of have that same mentality where, man, we're poised for success. I'm looking at more of like 8 wins now to be kind of conservative, but also bump up my original prediction.
Yep. I think for me, when I think back to the start of the season, we were going over season expectations. I had their ceiling at about 9-3 this year, with it mostly being Oklahoma, Texas, and K-State as the most likely losses. You could swap that K-State game for any other Big 12 game, honestly. Not that they've played their best football yet for a complete game, because like you said, their offense has been more of a second half unit so far, and they've struggled in the first half in a couple games. But I do feel like that 9-3 is fairly realistic now, not just as like, to me, I think their ceiling's higher, and that could all change after how today goes, of course, win or lose. But I do think that 8 to 9 win season can almost be fans' expectations. Now, I think 6, yes. As we look through the schedule here, and we'll get to that at the tail end too, there's at least 2 more wins on the schedule.
I'd be shocked if there wasn't.
Yes. Starting at 4-0 put us in the prime position to be bowl eligible again. Only need to pick up 2 more victories. So even if we somehow fall apart the second half of the season, you get 2 more wins under your belt and you're still going bowling. And for doing that back-to-back seasons would be incredible. And even though the hype right now is high, fans, I don't think, would be extremely disappointed if somehow we still finished 7-6 with a bowl victory, because we're still ahead of pace in that standard. But starting out 4-0 does put a lot of expectations on this game against Texas. Texas is one of the top teams in the country by far. They had an incredibly impressive showing against Alabama, picking up that victory several weeks back. They're the number 3 ranked team in the country. They're a very experienced team. They've got a lot of their weapons on offense back from last year. Of course, Quinn Ewers is back, and he's had a pretty good season. Although there's some things that I'm going to say about Quinn Ewers here soon that give me some doubt to his ability and gives me some hope as a KU fan. But, I mean, Texas beat Alabama 34-24 on the road at Tuscaloosa, which is one of the toughest environments to win in. And I think that, I want to say it shocked a lot of people, but it surprised a lot of people that Texas won by 2 scores on the road. But looking at that game, I mean, Quinn Ewers was nearly perfect. 3 touchdowns, 350 yards. They ran the ball for over 100 yards, divided it up. They had 5 different guys with 3+ catches. The defense did what they needed to. And I know Alabama's not the powerhouse that they've been of the last several years. Jalen Milroe struggled very poorly in that game. But Texas is not a team to take lightly. This number 3 ranking could easily be number 1, number 2. And if they pull off the victory again today, I don't know if they'll jump Georgia for the number 1 spot, but they could slide up above Michigan. But this is an incredibly impressive team. They run the ball very well. They've got a spread out ground game. Again, they've got a very experienced receiving core. Xavier Worthy is one of the best receivers in the country. and he can torch just about anybody. So that'll be a fun matchup to see how Kobe Bryant handles him. But on paper, this Texas team, they actually average less yards per game than we do. However, they haven't needed as many yards to win all their games. But they throw for about 277 passing yards a game and about 156 rushing yards. KU is outpacing Texas in the rushing game by about 80 yards, give or take. But yards allowed, both these teams average just under 300 yards allowed to the other team. Passing yards is almost dead even. Rushing yards almost dead even. So on paper, these two teams lined up pretty similar statistically. Now, obviously, they've had a very different schedule. Alabama had a very not good team in Wyoming that they crushed. Rice, they also crushed. So not really strong opponents there. Baylor didn't even show up to the game last week. So they've had a couple of things go in their favor, whereas you look at KU's side, I mean, outside that Missouri State win, pretty much the other 3 wins we have were somewhat of a they weren't easy wins. But because I look at that statistically, that tells me if KU does what we do best offensively and we can hit our offensive goals, then we've got a good fighting chance here. I think both teams are averaging in the 30s for points. KU might be just ahead, actually, just a little bit. So this tells me if this game is played in the 30s that we're going to find KU with a very strong chance coming down to the wire. Now, the betting angles are not in KU's favor whatsoever. Like I said, the spread's 16.5 right now, so almost a full three-score difference there. The over-under set at 60.5. So again, this looks like a game that could be played in the 30s or something like that. I think from a betting angle, taking KU to cover the spread seems like a no-brainer to me. And I hope I don't come to regret that later in the day. But plus 16.5, this team doesn't go out down without a fight. Even though they haven't played the top teams in the country yet, when they've struggled, they found a way to buckle down and just get it done. And this rushing attack we have, as good as Texas's rushing attack is, I think ours is better. I think the combo of Devin Neal doing what he's doing right now, he's not quite the workhorse back, but he's getting that 15 carries a game, close to 9,700 yards. He's a workhorse. He's patient. He knows how to find the holes in the line. And then Highshaw with that burst of speed and power. There's a dynamic group, and you mix that in with Jalen's ability to get into the open field. I think that gives KU a strong chance in this game. But as you're looking at this game as a whole, and we'll kind of put this into game predictions here too, what are some things you see that KU needs to do to have a fighting chance? And what are some things Texas does that are going to make this game difficult for us?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to standing our ground, whether in the our offensive line needs to stand their ground. Absolutely. I think, we say the battle of the trenches is going to be a theme throughout every single game, but it's so true. If we can allow Jalen enough time in the pocket to make those deep throws, I think it'll be extremely important for us. Now, defensively, yeah, I saw a stat from the BYU game. I think it was some crazy stat, like we only allowed like 0.9 yards per carry or something. Is that right?
Yeah, the BYU game, it was under a yard a carry.
That's insane. I think if we can control that as well, again, like we kind of need to tap into the best elements offensively and defensively that we've had so far this season to pull out that win. But we don't win this game without a big game from Jalen Daniels. Our good buddy Derek Johnson in his preview mentioned that this could be a big game for Lawrence Arnold. He's a Texas guy. This is going to be a bit of a homecoming in a sense for him. So, he's yet to have a touchdown. Like Derek said,
that's kind of surprising, honestly, that he hasn't had a score yet.
He's
and now I know a lot of our touchdowns have been on the ground once we're within the red zone. But yeah, it's kind of surprising he hasn't found the end zone yet.
Yeah, I totally agree with Derek there, because it's going to be a time for him to really show up. He's our best wide receiver on paper. So for him to have a big game as well, I think could be really big. But we got to stay locked in. It's, going to be a big one.
Yep. I think the thing that stands out the most to me about Texas, they do have a good defense. I'm not super worried about that yet. That may change come game time because Kotelnicki hasn't really dove into his full playbook yet. So I think we'll be able to move the ball against them. I think the thing that stands out the most to me is their offense. Again, I don't think Quinn Ewers is a bad quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. However, I think what he's benefited from is this year Texas's offensive line is one of the best in the country, and they've allowed very little pressure. I don't remember the exact statistic when I was looking at it. Of course, I don't have it pulled up right now. But he's been sacked like less than 3 times. He's got one of the best protection groups in the country, essentially. And if you go back to last year, when their offensive line was not quite as good, Ewers struggled when under pressure. Now, that's pretty standard for most any quarterback. When you get faced with heavy pressure, you're forced to do things differently. Now, we've seen with Jalen, when he's forced with pressure, he can maneuver around, get out of the pocket, and make some big-time plays. So for me, it's that offensive line of Texas. If our defensive line can't get any pressure, it's going to be a long game. If Ewers has time to sit back there in the pocket and let Xavier Worthy get open, or the run game's getting chunk plays for 5, 6, 7 yards of carry, I think we're going to be in for a very long game where we're going to have a super intense offense to keep up with. But if that defensive line between Austin Booker, Jeremy Robinson, Tommy Dunn, Hayden Hatcher in the group, if they can get some pressure on Ewers and force a turnover or two, which K's been pretty solid at this year, forcing turnovers, I think KU's got a really, really solid chance. So to me, I'm looking at this. If KU can get 2 turnovers out of this game, steal 2 extra possessions, give the ball to Jalen as much as possible in that offense, push the ground game with Devin Neal, control the clock a little bit, slow Texas down, keep them flustered. I think we've got a really, really strong chance of not just playing this game close, but actually having a big time upset on the road. And I'm of the opinion, if KU pulls off this victory today, and we're going to get in this here in a minute too, if KU pulls off this victory, this might be one of the biggest upsets in program history. I know we're a ranked team already, but this is a top 3 team in the nation where we're 4-0. And if KU pulls off this upset today, not only are they potentially in the driver's seat for Big 12 championship, they're a strong favorite to play in the Big 12 championship after this game if they win.
Absolutely.
But they're opening the door to college football playoff. And I know that's a big, big, big ask, big time dream, and there's a lot of football left. But if KU pulls off this victory, upsets Texas, and they look legit in this game, KU's going to be favored in almost every game the rest of the year. Maybe not the Oklahoma game, maybe. So if you're telling me KU wins out the rest of the year except for Oklahoma and they're a 1-loss team and they're a top 12 team in the country, they're as close to the college football playoff as we have ever thought is possible. So a big, big time game. One that I do think KU has a fighting chance in. But like you said earlier, KU's been a second half team. We cannot afford to have a slow start this game.
Yeah.
If we have a slow start, we get a turnover early, we go 3 and out. Texas puts up 14 on the board right away, first quarter. We've got a big uphill battle. Now, is KU capable of coming back at that? Yes, we've seen them more than capable of fighting back, but it is incredibly difficult to go up against a powerhouse team like that and fight your way back. It's the same thing that happens when the Chiefs go up 17-0, 24-3 in the first half. You don't want to give the Chiefs a big lead because the way they control the ball and the quarterback you have on that field and Patrick Mahomes, it is near impossible to come back from that. So KU has to get off to a fast start. I think they have to control the ground game, divide up those carries. Devin Neal and Highshaw need to be pushing forward. The offensive line has to hold their own. We need to trust Jalen to get out in the open and make some plays happen. This, for me, is his Heisman game. This is Jalen's opportunity. This is going to be a nationally televised game, ESPN, 3 o'clock. Nationally televised game for everyone to watch. All eyeballs are going to be on this game because the USC Colorado game is not during that stretch, which everyone else is watching that game. So this is your prime opportunity to put Kansas on the map for everyone to see. And this is Jalen's opportunity to show I am the best quarterback in the Big 12, which I firmly believe. And everyone needs to stop sleeping on myself and stop sleeping on this team because we're coming into Texas. We are not scared of this team. We've already beat them on the road once a couple years ago when we had no business being in that game. We were a 20-plus underdog. Even though the spread's still big, this is a KU team that has the firepower to keep up with Texas. Now, I say all that, and I'm going to put a caveat in. This is still a really good Texas team. If they come out and stomp the doors off of us, then good for them.
It doesn't change anything.
It doesn't change anything about, that's what we're going to get into the what-if expectations. But for me, that's KU's path to victory. force a couple turnovers, get pressure on Quinn Ewers, control the ground game, and Jalen go have a Heisman game. I think if we can do most of that fairly well, we're going to be in this game. So as we get into game predictions, give me where are you feeling as of right now this morning before kickoff? We got several hours before kickoff.
Yeah.
What is your on-the-spot prediction for this game?
All right. So I went back and forth. We were kind of talking about it offline before we hit record, but man, I've seen so many predictions on this game that were anywhere from a blowout win for Texas to a pretty close game, pretty tight one in the 30s, but a win for Kansas. I've seen so many different predictions, and there is a very, very big spread on the game. I'm going to say that KU is going to win this game, and it might be a little bit biased. I don't care. But I'm predicting 44-38 overtime win for Kansas.
Wow, that's a 44-38. So we get to overtime. Texas screws it up. KU gets the ball, comes down just like last go around, scores.
Exactly.
Man, that's a lofty prediction right there. I don't mind it though. The realistic side of me says, all right, I still expect Texas to win this game because they're Texas and there's a large gap. But there's a lot of optimism surrounding this team right now from the fan base, a lot of national love. I think KU is going to come to play, and if they do, they for sure cover the spread. I've seen a lot of predictions from 37-31 to 38-33, 34-27. I think KU needs to at least get into the 30s to have a fighting chance. So I guess my official prediction, I'm going to give you two. My official prediction is Texas wins 37-31. KU gets the ball, has a chance to come down, run out of time. My optimistic fan prediction is KU wins 34-31 on a Seth Keller field goal at expiration. KU gets the ball back. Texas
you
gets
better get pretty close to the goal line.
Yeah, we get a sack. Quinn Ewers goes down, pump the ball back. Jalen gets the ball, brings us down the field. Seth Keller field goal. KU wins 34-31. Upsets number 3 Texas. Next week, KU jumps from 24 in the rankings to top 12, if not top 10, because it's a top 5 matchup, top 3 matchup. And the national headline is Kansas football, college football playoff bound, something like that. And
I love
we're
it.
in the driver's seat for the Big 12. So that's my official predictions. Obviously, it's game day of, so we won't have time to get everybody else's predictions, but hopefully we'll see some fun ones throughout the day. I'm sure we're going to see them all over the place. But that leads me into what I want to close with is the what if expectations. And the expectations if KU is to win this game and expectations if KU is to lose this game. I think we've both said if KU loses this game, it doesn't really change anything for us necessarily. We still project them a 7 to 8 win team, bowl eligible. Still gives them an outside chance of getting to the Big 12 championship, even losing this game. I think the big thing is if KU wins this game, do expectations just skyrocket, or do we just take this game as what it is? KU came in prepared. Texas is overlooking us because they've got the Red River matchup next week. And they're looking ahead to that game instead of focusing on today. Because I think that's the other thing that sometimes plays a factor, is that teams overlook their current opponent because they don't take them seriously because the next weekend's their big game. Like if we were playing Iowa State this weekend at home and then it's K-State the following week. Well, Iowa State's pretty bad. So it wouldn't be surprising if KU came out sloppy because they're not taking this game seriously because their attention is to the following week. So I think that is a factor in this game. But if KU does win this game, and I know we've already kind of mentioned it, does expectation now become Big 12 championship appearance? Should it be
so.
Big 12 championship appearance? Yeah.
It's Big 12 championship or bust if we win this game. My only issue with it, it's still Kansas football. I think we're going to be overlooked within the conference, overlooked nationally. Even if we win this game, people are going to call it a fluke. It's really annoying as Kansas fans, but that's our reality. Until we string together 3, 4, 5 seasons of winning football, we're still going to be a joke, and we really shouldn't be. I think we can have a whole podcast on why we shouldn't be the laughing stock of the Big 12 anymore. In a lot of people's eyes, we're far from that, but in a lot of people's eyes, we still are. So, if we win this game, yes, it absolutely means Big 12 championship or bust, or at least making it to the Big 12 championship game, I should clarify, or bust. It makes you look at games further ahead in the schedule as everything is winnable, absolutely, 100%, yes. More than a 50% chance, absolutely, to win every single game if we can beat Texas. Texas is a tremendous team. You said earlier in the podcast that this Texas team is looking a lot like the Texas team that we've known in the past, but I almost would challenge you on that, because Texas in recent years kind of has been like a little bit of a meme at times, where they kind of just choke at one point. Like, is Texas actually legit? Are they back? Because there's a debate over that right now. So, if Kansas can win this game, I think that squashes the debate for Texas, if they're back or not. And it just kind of adds to the flukiness that is that program over the last few years. But yeah, I mean, if win or lose, I don't think it changes much for me personally, because I'm still looking at all these games like, yeah, there's a good chance we should win, but there's also an equal chance that we can lose. We got a tough schedule ahead, but we just got to roll with it. And this game is like our Super Bowl, so we might as well just go out and fight.
Yep. I think the only thing, it wouldn't really change my expectations, but if we just got the doors blown off and it's 44-17, 35-10, and we just struggle, I think that would tame some of the expectations, and maybe it's like, all right, we're getting there, but we're not to that level yet. We still got a ways to work to. And I think that's probably the case. Whether we get blown out or not doesn't matter. I think we still have some room to grow for sure before we can be taken seriously. But there's nothing to lose in this game. Win or lose, big loss, close loss, big win, close win, does not matter. KU has nothing to lose. All the pressure is on Texas in this game. They lose this game, they're not going to the college football playoff, in my opinion, because they're going to have a big time matchup against Oklahoma. They still have to get through the Big 12 championship if they stay in that position. If KU beats them somehow, to me, that pushes Texas out of what their goal is right now. So KU, you've got nothing to lose. Show up, ball out, give it everything you've got. The fans are going to be pumped for you. The whole world's going to be watching. I know it's a road game, but let's do something crazy today. Let's beat Texas on the road. Let's beat a top 3 team in the country, and let's just start dreaming big, because you win today. Yeah, send them packing. This could be the last time we see these two teams compete, at least in the Big 12. Maybe Big 12 championship, but more than likely, this is our last time we'll see them in a Big 12 matchup. So send them off with a nice little present of a loss, and I think there's a conspiracy kind of going around that the Big 12 as a whole does not want to find Texas in the Big 12 championship. Not that there's a script out there that's going to prevent them from getting there, but I could see maybe a little bit of favorable calls coming our way, depending on how the game's going. Maybe the Big 12 kind of sneaks in there and says, hey, let's at least make this game interesting, because screw Texas. So screw Texas, hook them down, get them out of here. Let's go rock chalk all the way, win this game, and just see what else lies ahead. This is going to be a fun matchup. Can't wait for it. 3:00 today. Hope as many of you guys as possible will be able to catch this preview beforehand. I know we didn't get up as early as I'd hoped. But those that do listen today, thank you so much. We'll obviously have a big time recap next week, win or lose. We'll get into some KU basketball next week as well, with late night just several days away, which means basketball season's here. A lot of news, of course, with the Arterio Morris departure, and we'll get into that next week. Baseball season's coming to an end, so you'll see Chris Tenpenny and myself, Chris from the Aftermath podcast that we also promote on here. Him and I are going to do a Royals recap season recap episode next week, talk a little bit about Zach Greinke and his Hall of Fame career. Of course, they've got their own Aftermath podcast to talk Chiefs, and that Chiefs preview is still up right now. Game time tomorrow night in New York. Hopefully that's another blowout victory for the Chiefs, but you can catch their preview on YouTube. You can check them out on Twitter at Aftermath_KC. Of course, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, at KCSA Pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, hit us up throughout the day, share your predictions with us. I'm sure between the three of us, you'll be seeing some tweets come your way from our account today, and some excitement there. And of course, if you're watching here on YouTube, thank you so much. Please hit that subscribe button on the screen. We're slowly building up some good numbers here, and would love to see that continue to jump. So subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends. You remember, you can always come back here for our content, Chiefs content. Spencer and I may do some NBA stuff coming up with some big time offseason moves that just happened. But yeah, looking forward to the game today, guys. Glad to be back on the mic and hope to continue bringing you guys some epic content here soon. So JB, thanks for joining me today. Have fun watching this game, and I look forward to chatting about it on the other side. Rock Chalk.
Rock Chalk.